You spend your whole life being told that the secret to happiness is effort. Push harder, try more, chase success, fight for peace of mind. Yet the more you try, the further it slips away. You have seen this happen in your own life. The moments when you desperately clung to someone's love, they grew colder. The nights when you forced yourself to sleep, you lay awake staring at the ceiling. The hours you spent obsessing about being confident only made you appear insecure. The harder you try to control life, the more uncontrollable it feels. This is the hidden paradox at the heart of human existence. The more you chase, the more it escapes. Alan Watts called it the backwards law, the idea that striving for happiness, for peace, for control, almost guarantees that you will experience the opposite. The very act of chasing amplifies the distance. Think about it. You want to be spontaneous. But the moment you try to be spontaneous, it's gone. You want to relax, but the more you command yourself to relax, the tighter your body becomes. You want to be loved, but the more you demand affection, the more you suffocate the other person. This is not just philosophy. It is something you have felt in your skin. You have lived this tension, and it exhausts you. You may not call it the backwards law, but you know its cruelty. Every attempt to force joy has left you hollow. Every effort to escape anxiety has made you more anxious. Every hunger for peace has made you restless. So here is the question you must face. What if everything you have been taught about control, effort, and achievement is not only incomplete, but deeply flawed? What if the very striving that has defined your life is the invisible prison that keeps you miserable? Watts's insight cuts like a blade because it attacks the foundation of modern living. We are trained from childhood to want, to try, to climb. Our worth is measured in effort, in results, in status. But the soul does not obey this system. The psyche is not a machine that responds to commands. It is a mystery that opens only when you stop demanding. And you have felt it. The rare moments when life flowed effortlessly, when you laughed without trying to be funny, when you fell into deep sleep without forcing it, when love happened naturally, not as a strategy. These were glimpses of the truth. Happiness is not something you can grab. The more you reach, the further it runs. It is like a shadow that follows you only when you stop chasing it. This is the backwards law in motion, and unless you wake up to it, you will spend your life running in circles, trapped in an endless game where effort becomes self-sabotage. Alan Watts pointed out that we are caught in an impossible loop. The desire for security makes us insecure. The hunt for certainty makes us anxious. The obsession with control leaves us feeling powerless. This is why modern man is drowning in stress. You are told that the solution is more effort, more discipline, more control. But this is like trying to extinguish fire with gasoline. Every attempt burns you deeper. The truth is shocking. The secret is not to try harder, but to surrender, to let go, to stop the frantic chase and discover what remains when the grasping ends. Imagine your life as a river. When you let the current carry you, you float effortlessly. But the moment you start thrashing, demanding to control the flow, you drown. You already know this in your bones. The best moments of your life happened when you stopped forcing and started allowing. The kiss that felt natural, the idea that came when you weren't searching, the peace that arrived in silence. Yet society keeps screaming at you. Work harder, hustle more, grind until you break, and you believe it because you fear that without effort you will collapse into nothing. But what if the opposite is true? What if surrender reveals the strength that control hides? Alan Watts warned that modern man is addicted to trying to be spiritual, trying to be calm, trying to let go. But the moment you try to let go, you are not letting go. You are grasping at letting go. This is the trap. You must see how deep it runs in you. Your entire nervous system has been wired to seek, to chase, to demand. But this demand is the disease. And the cure is paradoxical. Stop, breathe, allow. Right now, you may feel resistance. The voice inside you says, if I stop trying, I will lose everything. I will be lazy. I will be nothing. But Watts turns that fear upside down. He says that it is only when you stop clinging that you begin to live. When you loosen your grip on life, life finally holds you. You have been carrying a heavy burden, the illusion that you must control everything, and this burden is killing your joy. The backwards law is an invitation to drop it. You must understand, letting go does not mean apathy. It does not mean giving up on life. It means stepping into alignment with the truth that forcing never works. It means trusting the natural flow of your being. Think of a seed. It does not try to become a tree. It simply grows because it is in its nature. You, too, are built to grow, to love, to shine, but the moment you demand it, you suffocate it. Letting go is not passive. It is active trust. When you stop trying to force happiness, you create space for happiness to arise. When you stop demanding certainty, you open yourself to the mystery of life. When you stop grasping for love, you become love itself. This is not theory. This is lived experience. Look back at the best memories of your life. Were they manufactured by control, or did they come uninvited, like gifts? Watts insisted that the deepest peace comes when you stop fighting reality. He said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." It is so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. This is the madness you have inherited, the belief that you are not enough, that peace is somewhere else, that joy is a prize to be earned. But here is the truth. Joy is your nature. Peace is what you are when you stop running. You may be wondering, if I stop striving, how will I succeed? How will I survive in this world? But success without peace is failure. Survival without joy is not life. The backwards law does not mean you abandon all action. It means your action flows from a place of wholeness, not desperation. You work because you are alive, not because you are starving for worth. You love because you are love, not because you are terrified of being alone. Take this seriously, because your entire future depends on it. The world will never stop demanding more from you, more productivity, more achievement, more proof. But your soul does not care about society's scoreboard. Your soul longs for freedom. And freedom begins the moment you stop trying to trap life in your fists. The backwards law is not just a concept, it is a doorway. If you walk through it, you will discover that peace is not a goal. It is the ground you have always been standing on. So here is your invitation. Pause. Reflect. Ask yourself, what am I chasing? What am I trying so hard to force? And dare to experiment with letting it go. Watch what happens when you stop demanding. You may find that the very thing you longed for appears in the silence of surrender. This is only the beginning, because in the next chapter, we will go even deeper. We will uncover why the backwards law reveals the hidden mechanics of desire itself, and how the very structure of wanting creates the suffering you are trying to escape. You have already seen how the harder you try to hold on to happiness, love, or peace, the more they escape from your grasp. But now it is time to look deeper into the structure of desire itself, because the backwards law is not just a trick of the mind. It is a revelation about the way human longing works at its core. At the heart of every desire, hidden like a shadow under the light, there is the silent confession that you do not already have what you seek. When you want happiness, you are silently declaring to yourself, I am not happy. When you want love, you are whispering, I am unloved. When you want peace, you are affirming, I am restless. And so the very act of desire plants the seed of lack. The more you desire, the more lack you feel. This is why desire never ends. It feeds itself. The backwards law shows us that the very pursuit of fulfillment is the creation of emptiness. Alan Watts warned about this paradox, saying that human beings live trapped in a vicious cycle, forever reaching for something in the future, forever fleeing from something in the past, and almost never alive in the present. You know this cycle. You live it daily. You wake up thinking of what you must achieve. You go to sleep worrying about what you failed to do. And in between, you are constantly calculating, comparing, controlling. Life becomes a treadmill. The faster you run, the more exhausted you become, yet the scenery does not change. This is the trap of desire, and this is why the harder you try, the more stuck you feel. Think of your own struggles. You tried to become more confident, but in your trying, you only reinforce the belief that you are not confident yet. You tried to find peace of mind, but every attempt screamed that peace is far away. You tried to be loved, but every effort proved to you that love is not already here. Can you see how cruel this game is? You are chasing the horizon. No matter how fast you run, it will never come closer. The horizon exists only in the distance, and so long as you chase, you will always be chasing. This is why Watts said that true freedom begins when you recognize the futility of the chase. He pointed out that the universe does not demand this frantic grasping. It is only the human ego, terrified of its own fragility, that insists on controlling everything. The ego whispers to you, "Try harder, or you will lose everything." But it is this very whisper that ensures you lose the only thing that matters, the present moment. You cannot live tomorrow. You cannot live yesterday. You can only live now. And yet your mind keeps dragging you away from it, tricking you with illusions of control. But here is the hidden revelation. The moment you stop trying to escape the present moment, the moment you stop trying to fix yourself, a strange peace arises. It is as if you have been holding your breath your whole life, and suddenly you let it out. You realize that you were never broken, you were only running from yourself. Watts described this as awakening to the fact that life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be lived. And the more you try to solve it, the less you live it. Look carefully at your own patterns, how much of your suffering is not caused by the situation itself, but by your endless commentary about it. You are sad, and then you think, "I should not be sad." You are anxious, and then you think, "I must get rid of this anxiety." You are lonely, and then you think, "I should not be lonely." Do you see it? The first arrow is life. The second arrow is the mind stabbing itself. This is the cycle of resistance, and resistance is another name for suffering. The backwards law reveals that the more you resist what is, the more pain you create. When you allow sadness, it shifts. When you allow anxiety, it loses its claws. When you allow loneliness, you discover yourself. But when you resist, you multiply the pain. Alan Watts often used the image of clouds in the sky. He said thoughts and feelings are like clouds. They drift, they change, they dissolve, but we cling to them. We wrestle with them. We demand that they stay or that they disappear. And in doing so, we miss the vast sky behind them. You are the sky, not the cloud, but as long as you identify with the storm, you will never know your own spaciousness. This is why surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the discovery of your own depth. Think back to a time when you tried desperately to make something happen. Maybe it was love, maybe it was success, maybe it was inner peace, and then, the moment you finally gave up, the thing appeared. The person you had chased suddenly called. The opportunity you had hunted came when you stopped forcing. The peace you longed for came when you stopped trying to meditate perfectly and simply sat. This is not coincidence. This is the backwards law. The very act of release opens the door. The universe gives to open hands what it withholds from clenched fists. Watts explained it like this. Trying to control life is like trying to straighten the waves of the ocean with an iron rod. You can fight all you want, but the sea will never obey. The only way to float is to stop fighting. And when you float, the sea carries you farther than you could ever push yourself. This is how life works. You cannot dominate it. You can only dance with it, and dance begins when control ends. Now, some part of you may still be asking, but if I stop trying, won't I lose ambition? Won't I sink into passivity? This is the fear society plants in you. But reflect carefully. Have you really enjoyed the fruits of your ambition? Or has ambition mostly kept you restless, unsatisfied, always craving the next thing? What Watts teaches is not laziness, it is alignment. When you act from alignment, your actions are powerful, graceful, effortless. They are not born from desperation, but from flow. This is why some of your greatest achievements came when you were not even trying to achieve. You were just absorbed, alive, present. That is real power. You must see the difference between force and flow. Force is exhausting. Flow is energizing. Force feels like dragging a heavy stone uphill. Flow feels like being carried by the current. You already know this difference, but you keep forgetting it because the world keeps screaming at you to force. The backwards law is your reminder. Forcing blinds you, but surrender frees you. Think of your relationships. The times you forced love, it slipped away. The times you tried to control people, they resisted. But the times you allowed people to be themselves, connection bloomed. Think of your own mind. The more you forced yourself to stop thinking, the more your mind raced. But when you stopped caring about stopping, silence appeared on its own. Think of your goals. The more you obsessed over them, the more paralyzed you became. But when you acted with joy, opportunities opened. Life is showing you this law every single day. The question is whether you will finally see it. Watts said, "To put is still more plainly, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing." Read that again. The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. The very desire creates the insecurity. Can you feel the weight of that truth? Every time you have longed for safety, you have created anxiety. Every time you have craved certainty, you have birthed doubt. The chase and the suffering are one. To escape insecurity, you must stop desiring security. To escape fear, you must stop resisting fear. This is the paradox. This is the secret. Now imagine what it would be like to live without that endless grasping. Imagine walking through your day not as a hungry beggar, but as a king who has nothing to prove. Imagine conversations free of desperation, silence free of restlessness, ambition free of fear. That is the life the backwards law promises. And you do not need to manufacture it. You only need to stop chasing it. It is already here, waiting for you to stop running. So here is the challenge for you. The next time you feel anxious, do not fight it. The next time you feel lonely, do not beg for distraction. The next time you feel restless, do not try to force peace. Instead, allow it. Sit with it. Breathe it in. Watch what happens. You will see that the moment you stop resisting, the experience changes. It may not disappear, but it loses its teeth. This is freedom, and it is available now. Do not misunderstand. This is not about never acting. You still pursue goals. You still love, work, live. But you do it without the desperate clutching. You do it from a place of fullness, and that fullness only comes when you stop the chase. This is the paradox of existence. The backwards law is not a trick to get what you want. It is the revelation that you already are what you seek. When you stop chasing, you stop running from yourself. And when you stop running, you arrive home. But this is only the beginning of the surrender. In the next part, we will go even deeper into how the backwards law dismantles the illusion of control, and why facing chaos instead of running from it is the path to real peace. You have seen how desire creates its own emptiness, how every grasp for control multiplies chaos, and how the backwards law turns your frantic efforts into obstacles. But now we must step even deeper into the paradox. Because the illusion of control does not only poison your relationship with your emotions, it poisons your relationship with life itself. You walk around believing that the harder you work, the more you can bend reality to your will. Yet every honest look into your past reveals that your greatest breakthroughs came not when you forced, but when you allowed. Think about it carefully. The best people you met, the best opportunities that appeared, the most beautiful moments you lived did not come from endless planning and control. They came like gifts, sudden, unexpected, unearned. And yet you keep telling yourself that control is the key. You keep trying to push the river instead of learning to swim. Alan Watts used to say that control is an addiction. And like every addiction, it gives you the illusion of relief while deepening your dependence. You crave control because you feel insecure. You chase certainty because you are afraid of chaos. And the more you chase, the more fragile you become, because life is not designed to be controlled. Life is designed to be experienced. Imagine trying to control the weather, the ocean, or the growth of a tree. You would look ridiculous, yet you try to control the equally uncontrollable currents of your own heart and the people around you. You dictate how your mind should feel, how others should act, how the world should unfold. And every time life refuses to obey, you collapse into frustration, anxiety, and anger. This is the essence of your suffering. It is not life that is cruel. It is your attempt to make life something it will never be. Look around, and you will see this obsession with control everywhere. Society tells you that if you just buy the right product, follow the right strategy, read the right book, you will finally be secure. But notice how the promise is always in the future. You never arrive. There is always another secret, another method, another improvement. The world profits from your dissatisfaction. The more restless you are, the more obedient you become. This is why Watts insisted that true liberation is not found in control, but in surrender. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as awakening. Because when you surrender, you realize that you never needed control. You only needed awareness. Think of a dancer on stage. If she tries to control every movement, she stiffens, she freezes, she looks unnatural. But when she lets go, when she surrenders to the rhythm, her body flows, her movements shine. The audience feels alive with her. Life is no different. When you control, you stiffen. When you surrender, you flow. You already know this truth in your bones. That is why the best moments of your life felt effortless, as if something larger than you was moving through you. That is not an illusion. That is life itself. But let us go even deeper. The backwards law is not simply a psychological trick. It is a spiritual truth. At its heart, it reveals the illusion of the ego. The ego wants to be God. It wants to dictate what should happen, how it should happen, and when it should happen. But the ego is a phantom, a story you tell yourself about who you are. Watts said the ego is like a monkey riding on the back of an elephant, screaming and pulling the reins, convinced it is in control, while the elephant calmly walks its own path. The monkey is you, frantically worrying, planning, controlling. The elephant is life, vast, powerful, silent, and no matter how much you scream, the elephant goes where it wants. You cannot control it, but you can learn to ride in harmony with it. That is surrender. That is wisdom. Consider the fear that grips you when things do not go your way. You feel betrayed, as if life has broken its contract with you. But what if life never signed that contract? What if life was never supposed to obey you? What if the chaos you resist is not your enemy, but your teacher? Every time life disrupts your plans, it is inviting you to see reality more clearly. Every time the unexpected knocks you down, it is showing you that your security was always an illusion. And when the illusion dies, truth is born. You may wonder, if surrender is so powerful, why do so few people practice it? The reason is simple. Surrender feels like death to the ego. To surrender is to admit that you are not in control. And the ego cannot stand that. The ego survives by pretending it is the master. It whispers, "Without me, you are nothing." But this is the great lie. The truth is that without the ego's endless noise, you are everything. When you surrender, you discover the vastness of your being. You discover that you are not the monkey. You are the elephant. Think about the moments when life forced you to surrender. The illness you could not control. The breakup you did not choose. The loss you could not prevent. Those moments broke your ego, but they also gave you glimpses of something beyond it. Maybe you discovered compassion. Maybe you discovered strength. Maybe you discovered silence. Whatever it was real. And it came not because you fought, but because you let go. That is the paradox. Surrender feels like defeat, but it is victory. Alan Watts often reminded us of the Chinese philosophy of Wu Wei, which means effortless action. It is not inaction. It is not laziness. It is acting in harmony with the flow of life. It is the oak tree growing without effort, the river carving valleys without strain, the sun rising without command. Wu Wei is the art of living without force, and this is the essence of the backwards law. The more you force, the more resistance you create. The more you flow, the more power you unleash. Look at water. It is soft. It is gentle, yet it wears down stone. It does not fight, yet it conquers. Watts loved to remind us that water is the perfect image of wisdom, yielding yet unstoppable, humble yet invincible. This is what your life could be if you stopped trying to control it. You could flow like water, powerful not because you force, but because you align. But here comes the deeper layer. When you stop forcing, you stop resisting not only life, but yourself. You have been at war with yourself for too long. You criticize your thoughts, you judge your emotions, you condemn your desires. And all this resistance creates inner conflict. What would happen if, instead of judging, you allowed? What would happen if you treated yourself the way water treats the stone? Gentle, patient, persistent. You would finally experience inner peace. You would finally come home to yourself. This is the transformation the backwards law offers. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about dropping the illusion that you must. It is about realizing that the self you are chasing is already here. When you stop chasing, you stop running from the truth. You are already whole. You are already enough. But you cannot see it while you are obsessed with becoming. The chase blinds you. Surrender reveals you. Now let us pause for a moment and reflect. Everything in your life has been preparing you for this realization. Every disappointment, every frustration, every failed attempt to control was not punishment. It was guidance. Life has been trying to show you the futility of control. It has been whispering, stop running, stop forcing, stop resisting. And maybe, for the first time, you are ready to listen. So here is the invitation. Experiment with surrender. The next time you catch yourself forcing, stop. The next time you feel the urge to control, pause. The next time you feel restless, breathe. Do nothing, allow. Watch what happens. You may be shocked at how quickly life begins to move in your favor when you stop fighting it. You may be amazed at how much lighter you feel when you let go. This is not philosophy to be admired. This is practice to be lived. Remember, The backwards law is not about words, it is about experience. You cannot think your way into surrender. You must live it, and life will keep giving you opportunities to practice. Every challenge is an invitation. Every obstacle is a test. Every disappointment is a teacher. The question is, will you keep resisting, or will you finally surrender? Because surrender is not the end of your story. It is the beginning. When you stop fighting, life begins to reveal its hidden treasures. Opportunities you never imagined appear. Strength you never knew you had rises. Peace you never thought possible becomes normal. This is not fantasy. This is the natural result of alignment, and it is waiting for you. In the next part, we will dive even deeper into how the backwards law transforms not only your inner world, but your outer world, reshaping your relationships, your work, and your destiny itself. You have now walked through the restless chambers of desire. You have seen how control collapses upon itself, and you have discovered how projection fuels the endless cycle of striving. And now we arrive at the final step of this journey, the moment where all the threads converge. The transformation that comes not from one more strategy, not from one more secret, but from surrender. For the backwards law is not a clever trick to get what you want. It is the unveiling of a deeper truth. When you stop clinging, when you stop forcing, when you stop resisting, you awaken to the realization that life itself has always carried you. Think for a moment about the storms you have already survived, the betrayals, the failures, the losses. You thought they would destroy you, yet here you are. And perhaps you even see now that within those storms, something grew. A strength you never planned, a compassion you never asked for, a clarity that came only because everything else collapsed. This is the backwards law at work. It teaches you that the very things you resist contain the seeds of your transformation. You wanted control, but chaos gave you wisdom. You wanted certainty, but uncertainty gave you resilience. You wanted comfort, but pain gave you depth. The world did not betray you. It initiated you. Alan Watts insisted that life is like music. The purpose is not to get to the end of the song. The purpose is to dance while the music plays. Yet you have been running through the song as if there was some prize at the final note, some reward at the end of the path. And in your rush, you missed the melody. The backwards law reminds you that fulfillment is not at the end, it is here, in the middle of the dance. And only when you stop racing do you finally begin to hear it. But let us make this practical, because it is easy to admire philosophy from a distance while continuing to live in the same restless way. How do you actually live the backwards law? How do you stop trying without falling into laziness or despair? The answer is not withdrawal. The answer is presence. To live the backwards law is to act without attachment. It is to do your work, to love, to create, but without the desperate need for a specific outcome. It is to care deeply, yet let go of control. Imagine speaking your truth without obsessing over how others respond. Imagine working with passion, yet being free from the hunger for recognition. Imagine pursuing a goal, but without being enslaved by its result. This is the freedom of surrender. You still act, you still strive, but you are no longer consumed. You play the game, but the game no longer plays you. Watts described it beautifully with the image of water. Water flows around obstacles, adapts, yields, yet over time it shapes mountains. It does not force, but it conquers. This is your model. Stop forcing life to obey. Instead, align yourself with it, flow with it. And paradoxically, when you no longer demand, life begins to give. When you no longer chase, what is yours comes to you. Consider your relationships. How much suffering has come from trying to control others, from demanding their love, their approval, their validation, and yet every time you grasp, they slip further away. But when you release, when you give space, when you stop needing, suddenly connections deepen. People feel drawn to those who are not desperate for them. Love grows in freedom, not in control. This is the backwards law in action. You get love not by grasping for it, but by letting go of your need to possess it. Consider your work. You chase success, recognition, achievement, and in your chase you burn out, you lose joy, you lose creativity. But when you stop obsessing over the outcome, when you do the work for its own sake, you enter flow. And in flow, your best work emerges. Paradoxically, the less you chase success, the more success finds you. History is full of those who discovered this truth. Artists, inventors, thinkers whose breakthroughs came not from force, but from surrender to the process. Consider even your inner life. You try to silence your thoughts, to banish your fears, to control your emotions. But the more you fight them, the stronger they grow. Anxiety feeds on your resistance. Sadness deepens when you condemn it. But when you allow, when you breathe into the chaos instead of running from it, something extraordinary happens. The emotions move, they shift, they transform. You realize they were never enemies. They were signals. And once you stop fighting, you can finally hear what they were trying to tell you. This is why Watts insisted that awareness is enough. You do not need to fix every thought. You do not need to master every feeling. You only need to see them clearly, because when you see them without judgment, they lose their grip. The monster in the dark turns out to be nothing but a shadow. So here is your practice. When fear arises, do not resist it. Watch it. When desire consumes you, do not chase it. Observe it. When control tempts you, do not grab it. Let it pass. And in that space of awareness, you will discover a power far greater than control. Presence. Presence is the secret the backwards law has been pointing to all along. When you are present, you are no longer enslaved by desire or fear. You are no longer lost in the future or trapped in the past. You are here, and in this here, nothing can touch you. Criticism cannot wound you. Failure cannot define you. Loss cannot destroy you, because you realize that you are not the one who owns life. You are the one through whom life flows. Alan Watts loved to say that you are not a stranger in the universe. You are the universe playing itself in human form. And when you realize this, you see that there is nothing to force, nothing to chase, nothing to resist, because the ocean does not fear its waves. The fire does not resist its flames. The universe does not fight itself. Why should you? You may ask, but how do I protect my energy in such a chaotic world? The answer is simple. Stop giving it away. Every time you resist reality, you hand over your power. Every time you fight your own emotions, you drain yourself. Every time you grasp for control, you feed the illusion that makes you fragile. Protecting your energy is not about building walls. It is about dissolving illusions. It is about no longer spending your life wrestling with phantoms. Try this. Set boundaries without guilt. Speak your truth without apology. Choose silence over noise. Say no when you mean no. Write your thoughts when they overwhelm you. Sit in stillness when the world screams for your attention. These simple acts are not weakness. They are alignment. They are surrender in action. And they protect your energy because they stop the leaks created by resistance and fear. Remember, surrender is not passivity. It is not giving up. It is not letting people walk over you. Surrender is strength. It is the strength of the tree that bends with the wind yet never breaks. It is the strength of the river that yields yet carves valleys. It is the strength of the flame that dances without clinging. This is the strength you are invited to embody, and now we arrive at the heart of the transformation. The backwards law is not simply about solving problems. It is about awakening to who you really are. You are not the restless ego chasing control. You are the awareness that watches it. You are not the fragile self begging for validation. You are the silence that holds it all. You are not the storm, you are the sky. And when you know this, nothing and nobody can touch your energy ever again. Because your energy is not something others can steal. It is the essence of who you are. It cannot be stolen. It can only be forgotten. And today, you remember. So as we close this journey, take a breath. Feel the weight lift from your shoulders. Realize that the battle is over, because the battle was never real. Life does not need to be controlled. You do not need to be fixed. The world does not need to be conquered. All that was needed was awareness. And awareness is here, now, in you. Write in the comments, I choose awareness, because that is the beginning of true freedom. And if this message resonated with you, do not keep it to yourself. Share it. Let others know that there is another way. And subscribe, because the journey is not over. More truths, more revelations, more awakenings are waiting. But for now, let this truth settle. When you stop trying to control life, life finally begins to flow through you. And in that flow, you discover the freedom, the peace, and the power you have been searching for all along.